Okay, the season's nearly on us. We're looking at a few days before Christmas, and I'd like to wish you a very Merry Christmas. This is from all our sponsors and friends, and also wishing you a prosperous new year. Some of you guys who are not donating to the channel, now's the time to support LRTV by giving us $1 as a Christmas present. 1,000 of you will make a hell of a difference. Alternatively, if you want something and you want to donate to the LRTV as well, and you value our work, which I'm sure you do, then drop onto the Fourby site, go to the LRTV toolbox and get yourself a specialist tool, because these tools are worth their weight in gold. Okay, hello and welcome back. This is the LRTV editing suite. It's in a corner soundproof booth, and here is the planning board, which at the moment it's all in my head, and that'll be shortly written down. This is the microphone, which you can hear me through, and behind is the editing suite. Now here is two RAID drives. They're like £500 a piece, and one is dying. These have been used since we first really got kicking on the LRTV, so we're going to have to raise the funds. Hopefully soon we'll have them for continuing to store information. Believe me, it takes a lot of information to keep this going. Anyway, brake calipers, caliper and drum paint. Okay, you can see it JCB yellow, a bit of a sick colour for some. This is from Rite. This is up to 200 degrees centigrade protection. Surprisingly, Corroless, the Corroless S also, it comes in a spray can. That is up to, the primer is up to 200 degrees centigrade before it starts to degrade, which is brilliant. Notice it's actually got Corroless on the tin, and this is from Rite, which means it's the real McCoy. It's not a pretend stuff that's been watered down and put into a different container and sold as something else. Okay, well, the calipers, yeah, bright yellow might be a bit sick for some people. You can get them in a choice of colour from Rite. If you go on your website, link will be below. And in the workshop, at the moment, it's dropping. It's actually gone down to 2 degrees centigrade, and I can't paint this. 5 degrees is the most minimum for painting Corroless. So anyway, getting back to the subject in hand, and the workshop earlier on was 4 degrees or nearly 5 degrees centigrade. I've got a little probe here, and that's actually freezing cold, or it feels cold anyway. I don't want to stay too long in the workshop today. Just show you that the mug of tea that actually went up to 52 degrees centigrade. I'll just let it warm up and then I'll show you. Dropping down to 40, well, it was about 50 degrees centigrade, so I'm keeping myself warm with a nice mug of coffee at the moment. Right, so tools we've got on the bench here. There's a fair bit here to explain, and I'll try to keep it down to flaring. We also have bleeding tools here. There's plenty of stuff that you actually need. You can cut it down to a bare minimum, but you do need some of this stuff. There's no way of getting around it unless you've got a good mate. Right, so we'll start off with pipe clamps first. This pipe clamp is the one I use the most because it actually opens quite wide, and I can do air brake pipe as well. The hydraulic flexi hoses, I've got a thin ball. It doesn't take much to nip them up. Right, so I have varying clamps. I've just shown you these ones here. They're probably the best for me. I like them. Now, if you're going to have a tool hack for pipe grips, use this tool, which is long nose mole grips or vice grips. Basically, you put some plastic tubing over the end so it doesn't damage the flexi, because that will be an MOT failure, and then you can clamp it off. Pretty good. These ones here I got from Mac Tools a while ago, and they're okay. They work. And they're quite cheap, so not worried about it. This one I had when I was a lot younger. I can't remember the make of it. It might even be Sykes-Picot, but basically this will clamp the pipe as well. And obviously it's tapered, so the thicker the pipe, the wider you'd want the taper. But yeah, it's got a catch and it works okay. I'll just keep it just for memory's sake more than anything. Flare nut wrenches, yeah, they are actually vital when you're working on piping. Basically, they're a lot fatter, and you'll probably notice these are actually Halford's professional ones. I've had them years. I've never really had a need to replace them. I do more air brakes than hydraulics, but they come in handy, and believe it or not, Halford's stuff, Halford's professional, they're not bad at all. They're not bad. The spanner's good and lasted a long time. Decent set here. Right, so removing a brake union can be a real pain. If you can't get it out, just cut it as close as you can and then keep the pipe so you can then use that as a pattern to make a brake pipe later. But basically, I replace a section. I don't just do a little bit. With Land Rovers, especially older ones, if somebody's been in there already, you don't know what they've cobbled up to shove in there. But I take these out. These are steel pipes. They're original, so I'll know what the flare end will be, and I'll explain this pretty shortly. Okay, so, yeah, you'll have to pay attention here, but basically, as we go on in this video, you'll understand more about the flares, but one of the high-end tools, or the best tools, is one that fits in a vise. You have your die, you fit your pipe in, line it up, and then you'll use a punch to punch out the flare on the end of the copper pipe. Well, in this case, it's conifer, and I'll explain that as well. That's basically copper nickel. Copper pipe's a bit softer, right? You have punches here, and depending on what flare you want, because there's an SEA and there's a DIN type, then basically you're going to push it in and compress the end, so you're actually forming an end on the pipe. This is what will give you a fluid seal. So for repetitive work, or if you have a lot to do, then this is the best type. I'm lucky enough to have a guide as well, and the graph here will tell me what tooling I need depending on the pipe and the flare end that I need. But basically a 3/16 or 4.75, which is actually 4.76, but they're the same piping. It's just the ends that make a difference. One's metric, you could say, and one's imperial. You can get them, this is from eBay, and this is a better kit, more comprehensive, £134.99, 135 quid. That's probably about right. I paid £100 for mine a few years ago. Now this one, I like this one, the Flare Master, which is about £80, which is correct. This one, you can be very mobile with it, and you can do the piping on the vehicle if needs be. So here it is. I use this at work quite exclusively when I have to do vans for MOT, and I keep this very clean because it's my pride and joy. You have your dies here, and of course you have a hydraulic press. You can get cheaper ones like this, they're similar, and basically they're handheld, so you can do them on the vehicle. But I don't advise doing steel pipes often. It's more for softer pipes or conifer pipes. This one, yeah, okay, 50 odd quid. Now, does it work? Well, no and yes. If you're doing a lot of repetitive work, then you're better off not using. But I'll explain it because I've got one and I broke it. Not this part, but basically you have your press, and you need the tooling to fit, and you can also dial up the dies. Okay, so there are varying sizes. 3/16 is the most common, and that's the one it usually is set on. Okay, that does come out all right, and yeah, if I can just square that up. These punches, well, I broke one in the pipe, and I'm not impressed with it at all. It corresponds to these ones here, and they are the right size and they give you the right flare. However, they're not going to last very long. This one, I could say it's utter pants. I would avoid this at all costs unless you're only doing maybe one or two flares. You can buy them, they're about £10. Fourby do them for £10. And here they are, £9.99. If you've only, like I say, you've only got a couple to do, this would be fine. But if you're doing a lot, then you need to invest in a better tool, and I can't say any more than that about them. Okay, so we need to talk about the pipe fittings, and there are two different types, male types. There's obviously females as well. SEA single and DIN single. Now, if you look very carefully at this picture, you'll see that one's tapered and one is not tapered. There are angles on the face of it, but first of all, I'll explain the metric ones, or the DIN ones, which is a 10 by 1 millimeter thread, okay, a short male. Okay, now you have the SEA ones, which are Imperial, which is a 3/8 by 24, and that's 3/8 UNF by 24 threads per inch. Okay, that's a long mail. That's for the 3/16 pipe. Right, so rule of thumb, if you don't know what the fitting is, basically the Imperial is a lot looser in a metric thread. Okay, so the Caliper has a metric thread, and you've just seen what the Imperial one does. The metric short one, the threads are different, and well, obviously, because one's Imperial and one's metric, but you can screw it in, and the threads will be a lot tighter. Okay, there'll be a lot less a slop in there, so not quite like a nun's crutch, of course. But basically, the DIN, you'll recognise it by the 4.75 metric, and the shoulder of the flare is square, okay, which will be like this one. This one is actually a DIN one, okay. And for the SEA, which is the older type vehicles of 3/16, it's the same size pipe as except for a gnat's cock, basically. Yeah, it has a shoulder, a tapered shoulder on it, okay? So you can see the difference, and you already know how to recognise one from the other. Okay, my job's done. I can go home and have a cup of tea now, yeah? Well, no, there's more to it, but look, you can see the taper in that thing. It's not very noticeable, but you can see it, okay? So the pipe flare, okay, that's actually a double there, but you can see there the difference, all right? And I'll just give an example of a metric one, yeah? You got that? So looking back at the illustration, you can clearly see the difference between SEA and DIN. So we'll go back to our pipe fitting, and you can see that. Okay, the convex part of it is different from SEA, so DIN and SEA are at different angles. This one's something like 115 to 117 degrees, and to be honest with you, if you've got the tooling which is marked, you're okay, and that has a 90-degree back on the flare. Right then, the tooling, I've got Operation 1, Operation 2. Okay, this one happens to be the Imperial or SEA, and you can see it's actually 3/16 or 4.75. OP2 on this one is doing a double flare. I'll explain that in a little while. However, OP1, you can see it's a DIN convex with a 90-degree back. Okay, that's about 117 degrees. So we get the right die and then put it into the tooling, and then we'll punch it out. Okay, so it's simple. That is a single flare. So looking at the bottom of the threaded part here, the pipe feed on the caliper, you can see that's concave. So the convex part of the pipe will now fit in there, and it will be a solid fluid seal. If, for instance, you were to put an SEA fitting in there, it probably won't seal unless you cramp it right down. You can come unstuck with pipe unions, especially if you need a double and you've only put a single in. Wheel cylinders are especially bad for this because it's not always as it first appears. So you always check to make sure you know which one it is. You can't just put SEA where DIN is. This is a double, okay? This is an SEA or a DIN double, and it's the second operation which you have the inside at a 45-degree angle. And, well, anyway, when it comes to pipe, how you get these perfectly right, well, it's the length of the pipe in the die and the quality of your tooling. That's what counts. So I'm actually going to do a double here, and I'm going to explain about the double in just a little further along the road here. But with this one, basically you want to have the tubing flush with the die face, but I've let it stick out a little way, and then I'm going to do a double, and you'll see what happens, because if you leave too much material and try to squash it down, you get something which doesn't resemble anything more than a fat lady with a double chin, and it's not really acceptable. You have to try and find the right way of getting perfect flares. Now, this is a double chin, it's crap, and it doesn't work. That's not right. It's because the tube was too long in the die first of all. So let's get it right, shall we? I'll put this into the die in the tooling, and I'll make sure it's lined up. You notice the pipe's a little bit bent, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so it's in the die, and I'm going to make sure that the face is flush. It certainly is with this tool. This is the right way to do it. You have to experiment a little bit, and you'll notice there's a little bit of a cut off there, which when I cut the pipe, that it's left a little bit extra proud, but I'm not too worried about this. So I'm going to get my OP1 first of all, which is for SEA, and then I'm going to press in, all right, when I eventually get there. This tool isn't as good as the Sykes-Picot dial-up one, however, it's good enough. And okay, so we'll do OP1 first of all. Okay, that is fits the shoulder at the back, and then I'm going to do the 45 degree, which will be well, you could say it's a female in the center. Okay, now when I remove this, what you should see is a near as damn it perfect flare. Okay, I don't pride myself on it, I just know that mine don't leak, so there you go. There's no double chin, and it looks fairly good. So you're going to ask me now, what is this double flare all about? Well, basically, if you look at this caliper, you can see very closely here, you can see nuts, which is a female connector, and there's a female connector here. These connect the flexi pipes to the steel pipes, and you need a double flare. Okay, Land Rover ones have a clip, and this happens to be a male union to the flexi. Okay. So here we have an old brake pipe. This was for an LDV van. It's irrelevant what it is, because basically that's one end to the caliper, and we've used this die here, which is your 90 degree, and this one will be your 45 degree back on it. Okay, this is the SEA, which you use for DIN as well. Okay, when it comes to the female fittings. Okay, now you can see this. Okay, there is the second punch has brought a 45 degree angle on it. Just a little tip here before we go any further, make sure that you've got your connector ends on before you do the second end and bend the pipes, okay? Right, so the female fittings, they have concave backs to them. You can see that. Can you see that clearly in the bottom there? So it's not a 90 degree back. And basically what we have to use is the SEA punches and the dies. That's as simple as that, and that'll fit DIN as well. Right, so we have the 3/16 or the SEA backs, which have the angle, okay, and then what we have here is the punches. Now we use OP1, OP2, that's operation 1 and operation 2, okay, and this will form your flare. Okay, OP2 will give you the 45 degree in the center. Okay, OP1 here for DIN is basically just for the male DIN fitting. Okay, and that will just give you the convex angle. Right, so it's as simple as that. All right, it's like OP1 in the 3/16 or the SEA die, and then the second one will then make the 45 degree angle in the center. Okay. So it's as simple as that. Okay, I hope you understand that. I'm going to talk a little bit more about cutting pipe and everything yet, because you probably noticed that I've been, well, is it sloppy or not? I don't know, but I'll just show you that fitting here. And basically, yeah, so that's nicely formed. That'll make a good seal. All right. So cutting, basically, yeah, you could use a hacksaw. Do not use a pair of side cutters or anything like that. This is the tool to use. Now it's a wheeled cutter or a pipe cutter. Plumbers know this. Basically, you have a cutting wheel and you keep turning it on the tube until it's broken or cut. Okay, it's not 100% perfect, but it will do. Okay, you could actually run a file on this and make it a bit smoother. However, with this tubing, when you're making brake pipes up, you really do need to get sort of near enough as close as you can get to the right length, okay, before you make your piping. Now, I've got a small piece here. This is still relevant to longer pipes. First of all, you measure out your piping, and I do it this way. I do it pattern per pattern. It doesn't have to be perfect, and making brake pipes, they will never look like factory fitted brake pipes, but you get them somewhere close, and MOT testers like to see this, and I can't alliterate it enough that they will look for how the pipes are made, to what sort of repair they would consider it to be done. So long as it's not leaking, chafing or anything like that, it's good. However, basically, yeah, you cut it, and then fit it in there. Now you can see where the cut is finished. It's not 100% perfect. For me, that's acceptable. The reason I don't file it off is because I don't want swarf in the brake fluid, okay? If you were going to cut it, make sure you blow the tubing out perfectly, okay, so there's no swarf in there at all, especially when you use a hacksaw. But it's acceptable. You can see that is the same as the fitting that came off. The cutters, okay, if they're broken like this one, I've just got this, keep this as an example. If the wheel tooth is knackered, then chuck it away or replace the blade if you can do it. It wants to be as perfect as it can be, and remember, the better the quality the tool, the better the work will be. But don't get obsessed about being utterly perfect. I know I've talked to somebody on Facebook, they want a perfect flare, but as long as it works and it's okay, then do it. Okay, this tool is absolutely fantastic. I can't recommend it enough because it will give you longevity and good flares. If you get crap stuff, then you end up with something that resembles a granddad's old pants. Right, can you join two pieces of pipe together? Yes, you can. It's allowable for MOT. Oh, hang on, no, that's the wrong fitting. I've got loads of different fittings in this box. This is a joiner, and you basically just put two male ends into it, okay? And these are just single lap ones, whether they're metric or SEA, DIN or SEA. Don't know at this point. There are also different size fittings depending on what piping you want, so there's quite a variant that is possible, especially with this tool. But what I'm saying is basically, yes, sometimes you need to assemble a long pipe in two parts. Okay, so a few tips here. Always, as I said, put the fittings on first. Keep the tube straight until you're ready to bend it. So basically you have to have it straight anyway to put in the die. And then you can slide your ends on. As you can see here, there's two ends already hung on there, and this is, otherwise if you forget, then you have to redo the pipe, and I've done that a couple of times in my lifetime. Right, so pipe bending, I use this one. It's a very simple tool. It's a snap-on one, but it doesn't matter. There are hundreds of different types. Always bend with a bender if you're doing a 90-degree angle. You can't do it by hand. If you get a kink in it, then it will fail an MOT, and it's actually dangerous because it restricts the pipe flow. Okay, so yeah, basically use a tool and bring the pipe round. Okay, so you can see that. You want to make sure that your ends don't drop down the pipe while you're bending it, otherwise you won't get them back to where the flared end is. Okay, so got one here, and what I'll do is tweak that once it's on the vehicle. So here's a brake pipe I made up for an air over hydraulic load sensor, which is airbags and hydraulic system. You see that it's not touching, and it doesn't look factory fit, but it looks tidy, presentable, and it's what the MOT tester is looking for. It's been tested and doesn't leak. Okay, so here are the ones that I made up for the caliper. Fit them, bleed your caliper or whatever up your brake system, and then test them. Obviously, under pressure, you'll see if any of them are leaking or not. If they are, you either have to nip it up a little bit more or make another pipe. And sometimes they don't work, sometimes they do fail. It depends, again, on the quality of the piping you use, the unions, and the machine you have to make the flares. Just a few thoughts there, okay? One final thing on brake piping, I've got ends that I always fit. Don't let any debris get up there. Conifer is a lot stronger than copper. Copper is rubbish for making brake pipes. It corrodes very quickly, turns green. It's not that good, it's just soft. Always use conifer. Right, so Sykes-Picot Flare Master, I'll just give you a quick overview of it. I'm not going to use it, it's too cold in this flipping workshop to do any work. However, it's a simple tool, it's a build-on tool. You get the basic here, you get your die, and these two dies, which are your 90-degree back and your SEA back on your die. So there you go, tube size 4.75. all right, so you can see those very clearly. I've explained them already in this video, so no need to go over it again. Okay, so that is basically your die and your die holder. You can hold this the pipe actually on the vehicle if you need to, and then you have your press here. Okay, and the press has a punch end which is in the plastic container behind it. So basically, yeah, that is how it works. All right. You have your press ends in here like so, and they are replaceable. You can get more bits for them, not a problem. Okay. Now the press is hydraulic. You fit your press ends in here, your tooling ends in. Okay, only 2 of them, like I said. And this, you pull it back, draw your foreskin back and slip it in the Jap's eye, as it were. Right, so this is a hydraulic press, and it's a very easy operation, to be honest with you. Sykes like to make tools that are for professional environments, so yeah, I'll wind this out, and it doesn't go out that far, but it goes out the right length to do your tubing, okay? So you get your flares right. So there's extra bonus for you. I love the smell of 3-in-1 oil, and 3-in-1 oil is an exceptional oil. Okay, you've got to have a tube around the house, but this I use for cleaning and preserving my tools. I don't use this tool as much as I should do, or maybe that's a good thing, but it is in use. So I keep it just lightly oiled with 3-in-1 and then keep it in the container. This stops it from moisture getting to it, okay? This expansion pack here, you can fit other tools which are relevant to the job. However, you don't get them with the basic kit. All right, otherwise it's a good piece of equipment, and I love Sykes-Picot. They do tools for the trade when you can afford them.